my one hat being a co-founder of Lelapa AI, that's exactly what we're betting on, right? They're saying that when you're thinking about language and Africa, and you're thinking about there's 2,000 languages.
In Africa?
Yeah, 2,000 plus.
More, for sure.
Yeah. You need to build systems that get to people where they are, and then this gets them to then really be active in this technology. We also make a lot of assumptions that technology being there, it means that people are empowered. That has not happened with the internet, and that is not going to happen with AI. No. So you need to actually design for the people that we think we're serving. But the other side, I think, Connect, maybe agreeing with you, we had reached 2050. 1 in 4 people on the globe are African.
Right.
1 in 3 newborns are African. How are we prepared for that?
Prof Marivate, thanks for joining us.
No problem.
How you doing?
I'm good.
First question.
Yeah.
What AI tool did you use to create your presentation?
Oh, no. Old school. I have a message I've been crafting maybe for the last 6 or 7 years.
Yeah?
And I was just delivering its latest iteration. So
I think
I'm more doing AI on myself, I guess, to keep on adjusting it to get it right.
yeah.
100%. And what do you hope, again, I mean, great presentation you gave on stage there. What do you hope the audience got away from it?
I think the biggest thing is just for Africans to not give away their agency. I think there's a lot, and maybe it's not just Africans, it might be also people in Latin America and other parts of Asia, where AI is everywhere, people are talking to you about it, but then they're more kind of trying to convince you that you can't do it. Somebody else has to do it on your... So we shouldn't, through highlighting what a lot of people have been working on, and especially the grassroots organizations like Data Science Africa, Deep Learning Indaba, Masakhane. That's a decade plus of work that's been going on. Engage with those communities and then support them, and also make sure you also choose to build.
Interesting.
What would you say, like the ideal, at least from your perspective, the African AI ecosystem look like, whether it's business, research, product?
Yeah. It will always be a mix. There was a question at a policy intervention that we're in, people asking us, we just need the innovators. Why should we be thinking about the research? And a lot of it is that now, and okay, maybe parts of it was connected to this question of how can, for example, we remove the biases out of the AI systems like LLMs. And there's work that's coming out that's showing that you can't fine tune. So the thing of taking the LLM and then continuing to finally train it, you can't fine tune the bias out. It hides. Because remember, somewhere in the model is this thing that might be sexist, that might be racist, that might be... It's just that when you're fine-tuning, you're thinking that you're reducing the chances that it will come out. But then some user is going to come, put in a specific prompt that is very different from what you expect as an innovator, right?
Right.
And then all of a sudden, there's a scandal of now the system responded and it said A, B, or C.
Right.
Right. And that's just showing you that that you can't take that out. It has to be, as you're building, you must build from the ground in such a way that you have these better representations. So to do that, the ecosystem will have the people who are fundamental, who look at some of the things of saying, how can I maybe on an edge supercomputer that mostly uses solar, so it has to be very low power, build new algorithms that can then train models. Then there's going to be the people who are like, oh, now there's these new algorithms that can train models. How do I train models for language, for vision, for video in that perspective? But using data that might come locally with all the challenges. Then there's a person who takes that and says, hey, how do I now try to convert this into product? Right? And then there's a product that is on the other side. Who is absorbing it? Right? Who's buying these products and using them for Africa so that they can get to the market, right? Because we have to test.
Right.
There's no such thing that everybody has 100% go-to-market. Right? So it means that there has to be 1,000 innovators who are trying to go to market so that we can get those 10 that end up being our next, the unicorns of Africa. But if you're not getting 1,000, thinking you'll invest in 10 and get 10.
Yeah, it's a problem. One of the things that made me sink in my seat while you were giving the presentation was the lack of R&D that we're doing in the space.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? Is it a lack of understanding, or why are we having so less R&D in the space?
Yeah, for the listeners here, just for context, I wasn't actually even saying R&D in AI.
Yeah.
I was saying general R&D. General R&D, the AU benchmark is 1% of your GDP.
So why do you think that is, though? Like, what
We have to kept there. It's a hard thing. Just think about if you're thinking in South Africa, the government is looking at lots of different things, and they're saying like, it's hard for us to allocate money here. So how much money are we going to put it towards science and technology, right? That is one, the research. And research can be in medical science and all these things. So one of the things that will be very clear about this for people to understand, when the Trump administration made all of those cuts of programs for the NHI putting money outside, even South Africa was affected. Why? A lot of our medical research on the African continent is not funded internally in South Africa. I mean, almost impossible. It's actually the amount of money that you need to do medical research are so big that governments can't actually afford it across the continent. So it's other governments who say, we will fund HIV research on the African continent to reduce, obviously, the effects for humanity in those spaces. But then now, if those get cut, you then need to rearrange locally and say, what are we doing? Because this is going to have such a major impact on us. Maybe the other side before there is then you have to go in and say, what is then the place for corporates? Because we're at 0.6% of GDP in South Africa. We used to be at 0.8% before COVID. And that 25% drop was corporates in South Africa reducing how much they were spending on R&D. And now that shows you like there is a responsibility here to say we have to be building the next. The US, I think, is at 3.8%. Shenzhen in China as a province, not even the whole country, is at 5%. And that 5%, 95% of it comes from the private sector. It is not being driven. So I'm giving these examples of saying there's a whole realm of possibilities. It's not just saying it's the government's responsibility. And then it's also not just saying it's the private sector's possibility. It's everybody playing their part to enable an ecosystem that does have some R&D.
But my feelings are like, and I'm clearly I'm very wrong in this viewpoint. But my feelings are, yes, take out the arguments of perceptions of higher risk factors on the continent. The size of the market, potential market here, and the if you're looking at problems to solve, are huge. The profits you could make in building products here for people here, in my view, is untapped for the most part.
I don't think you're wrong. That's where, in my one hat being a co-founder of Lelapa AI, that's exactly what we're betting on, right? They're saying that when you're thinking about language and Africa, and you're thinking about there's 2,000 languages.
In Africa?
Yeah, 2,000 plus.
More, for sure.
Yeah, sure. Yep. You need to build systems that get to people where they are, and then this gets them to then really be active in this technology. We also make a lot of assumptions that technology being there, it means that people are empowered. That has not happened with the internet, and that is not going to happen with AI. So we need to actually design for the people that we think we're serving. But the other side, I think, maybe agreeing with you, we had reached 2050. 1 in 4 people on the globe are African.
Right.
1 in 3 newborns are African. How are we prepared for that?
Right.
You can already see it. I like, I'm in Geneva and in Switzerland, and it's Amapiano.
Oh.
No, this is right there. That is the part of like the thing that happens when you have influence starts coming in. What happens? The first things, a pop culture starts yamping.
Absolutely.
Right, it jumps borders very quickly because just where the creativity is coming from is now becoming the places where there's that number of people. And then now, yes, the internet might have reduced the distance for me discovering something. But yeah, you can be in a lot of, whether you're listening to Afro beats or you're listening to piano, it's taking over the world.
Interesting. You are so big on language. Why is that? What does language mean for you? And I just mean spoken language, not LLMs.
So my PhD is in reinforcement learning, so a subset of machine learning that deals with machines learning from experience.
Yeah.
And as I was doing that, I took as it were, one semester I took a class from another professor, not in this area, and we were processing. At the time, in that class, I was processing social media,
right?
But mostly how people are connected or sending messages to each other on social media, and I was throwing away the text. What when I finished my PhD, as sometimes people do, I just decided to take a break for a year, and I said I'll do something else. I'll work on data science. I'll be a data scientist, and then I'll also figure out what do you do with this tech. So this is going back to 2015.
Right.
So there, start learning about natural language processing. And then what you then learn very quickly is, if you then want to say, I want to process Facebook posts or Twitter posts in isiZulu, for example, there's no tools. The ones that you get is always off-the-shelf English.
Yeah.
You can train something. They're just not there. And that's when now I started going like, there's a problem here. And then how do you solve it? And now you just keep on pulling the string, right? And then you go like, okay, what are the next things we should do? We don't have even digital dictionaries.
Right.
We don't have speech recognition systems that work well.
Right.
And that then became like, now in hindsight, the last 10 years of my life has been going that direction. If you do that, and I think you do it sincerely, you end up being an activist for language. And because you notice that the problems are actually not technical. They come into society, how we see language, how we, we are in, again, Sandton in Johannesburg, in the metropolitan area. We can be very comfortable in engaging just in English or even mixed languages. But a person who's way outside these metropolitan areas, the way that they think, everything comes from isiXhosa, Siswati, and they're not being served.
Would you consider, correct me if I'm wrong, the viewpoint being you almost want to avoid Africa just being a huge consumer continent, and you want to actually, in the sense that the solutions that you're talking about could be built elsewhere, where this technology was originally built, but then if you actually build them here, you find at least you're going to be building businesses here as opposed to somehow we're just now a huge market for, again, Western markets.
Yes, I think we are in agreement on one part of saying building here just creates more ideas, right? Because in the idea market, you need as many of them as possible, right? And the ideas are cheap, but you need a number of them. But people saying, I'm trying this, I'm trying that. I think it's limited. If I was an intern at a big company in Silicon Valley for that, and being there, you very quickly see it that you can't drive by wire. Say we're going to innovate here, and then it's going to kind of work out for everybody on the other side. You need to be there. For some of these companies, that's why they then also set up local R&D offices. But many of them, these multinationals, do not have R&D offices on all of the continent, on the whole continent. So what do they only have? The sales office, right? So again, they're not there to say where we're co-creating on the continent, so we then have to take that initiative.
Right.
I tend to give the example of Tanzania. First time going to Tanzania was 2017. Met a researcher at Nelson Mandela University of Science and Technology in Arusha, and she then was talking to me like, we're designing these systems that can work on low power cell phones that can then predict parts of weather information that is useful for farmers. The farmers might have low connectivity, so meaning they connect only once in a while to the internet, but they've got this device that has a lot of sensors on it, and you can pick up last 2 weeks or the weeks before weather, and then say once your prediction is we can still predict some things that are important to the farm. I was surprised. I think fast forward to maybe 2022 or 2023. Somebody telling me of like, now in the knowledge discovery world or data science, so people are now calling this machine learning at the edge, and now almost like they've coined this new area, right? And this was in a conference, I think in Seattle, and I was like, no, and I know Africans who've been doing this for 6 years.
For 6 years already.
Right, so you can see innovation happens anywhere.
Right.
But then the context means that for some things you start because that's the problem you're seeing next to you. You're not coming up with a theoretical problem and then trying to solve it. It was a problem, and they had to do it in 2017.
2017 already.
Right, and now you will hear it even now with the LLMs and Gen AI. That's the words you'll be hearing in the next few months. Can we do this at the edge? And the edge is like, no, but there have been so many research, I'm pretty sure, in Latin America, in Africa, who've always designed for that because it's a lived reality. It is not something that they make up.
Interesting. And what's difficult in the building of this LLMs that translate in different languages to local languages? Let's say in South Africa, for example, is it the data that you train the models on, or is it just the investment that has to go into building the actual LLM?
In general, it'll be multiple things.
Okay.
So you need to, yes, data is one part of how do you get good quality data. Sure, you can get very noisy data very easily, but very high quality is as hard, and that's why also you see that some of these models that are big or from other organizations tend to not cover well, because the way that they get data is typically from these cheap sources, and it's like they're very noisy, and as such you don't get good quality output. That's one. You're going to need the technical ability to do the engineering to train models. How are you then adjusting those models from the ground up, the algorithms, to better suit that you might not have as much data, or in some cases, I'll give you an example. isiZulu is a delimitive language. It's very morphologically rich. So changing a letter might change the meaning of a word completely.
100%.
While English is less so.
Yeah.
So the ways that the encodings are done for most of the LLMs that you people might be using there from the base might not support isiZulu well. So it doesn't matter what you do, even if you get like infinite isiZulu, you're going to hit a plateau that you can't go over until you fix the fundamental problem in that. So who's going to do that?
There you go.
Who's going to explore those
Right.
areas of saying what is the best way to represent a language like isiZulu from all the nuance that's around, from the ground up. So, well, the thing we're training on is we're training more on the one that's general purpose, which is the way that it's done, but it's not specific to something like isiZulu. Then on the other side is going to be this take up. So the people who are building, who are doing the research in these areas and are doing these things, who's then absorbing those outputs?
Right.
So you can see it's a multi.
Yeah.
And it is not just people think, oh, it's a technical issue.
It's
It's going to be a multi-neck. So
Right.
there are people, especially grassroots organizations, that will advocate and are building towards that. But ultimate scale is going to come where people are now saying, definitely, I would like to interact with my phone.
Yeah.
It's in society.
100%.
Right. And then through that, if you have all the things that I use inside are in society, then that puts that demand to say, no. Now I'm having somebody who say they want these pieces. Now I'm going to have to find who can build this stuff for me. Right. And it keeps on going down. The other side, if you have 2,000, 3,000 languages on the continent, a lot of them are about to disappear. Right. And how many of them can AI help? Not the it's not the only thing that can do preserve. I mean, it's one of the pillars that can assist. So how then do we get to a point where we almost have like a toolbox for people who in their community say like, oh, what can I do just so that at least I like, in the annals of history, I can still be counted, because there is a likelihood that if you try to preserve it, it won't be preserved with first language speakers anymore. They're going to move.
So if you're looking at, builders, creators, people, entrepreneurs that are looking to, maybe looking forward for the next 5-10 years, youngsters, unlike myself. I mean, what do you feel they should be focusing on? What's the now that in terms of what they should be building that you feel might have longer legs going into the next few years?
I think there's the skills of doing, in general, yes. Learning to build like maybe technology around data and computing is important as a base. So be a good programmer, learn how to do that, learn how to deal with data from different sources and all of those. Some will just be able to say, oh, do I know in a way, can I break down a machine learning data where I can see it and then I can actually try to implement something? That's a skill. And that skill is not just for researchers. It's for people who can now say, hey, of the 5,000 papers that are showing up every month about AI, and now I see somebody saying, hey, this one is making the rounds everywhere. Everybody's talking about this paper, that you can sit there and read it and go like, this is what the implication is for my world. Yes. Right. It needs you to have that core understanding, not superficial, of whether it's like database systems, that people who are database nerds and how to do that. There are some people who are doing AI and AI nerds and all those things. Then some of a minority of all of those are going to be the people who say, no, I am going to invest myself to be a researcher. I'm the one who will be writing those papers and doing the work to do that. Right. So we need that. If we just keep on staying superficial, the ground below always feels like, oh, it's moving, and now people are no longer talking about crypto. They're not telling me about this. Then tomorrow they're gonna tell me about agentic. I'm so tired of it. And then tomorrow, but then maybe a person who has the depth, you just forget it and go like, okay, what is actually the core thing I can quickly unravel? And I say like, for now we're still kind of static, because a lot of there will be enough people in machine learning and AI who will tell you that fundamentals haven't changed for 30 years.
Yeah.
The computing has become bigger.
Right.
We've now things that we couldn't do in the 90s, we can do now. But then there's still things and as such, you don't panic when you see, and you also temper your hype and say like, okay, fine. And that time is awesome. Like I love time. As a researcher, you do. There's things I couldn't do back in 2016. Right. But I'm like, people finally like understand what I'm talking about.
Right.
It was such a hard thing before ChatGPT. You tell people you work on the stuff and you're like, okay,
What is
this is
how's it gonna help me? Look, there's a friend of mine who's building this LLM. The data set that he's been using has been the Bible.
okay.
To try, it's a TTS, text to speech, trying to get a particular system so that people who speak isiZulu, this thing is written, it's giving content in English, this thing can translate that text to isiZulu. However, he's been using hymn books and the Bible.
Yeah.
Those has been. He's at about 60 hours of training. This thing can make sense. You can have a meaningful conversation with it, but it has a weird tone to it, right? My question to you is, what advice would you give this guy? What data sets can he tap into? Because he claims there isn't enough.
So he's just doing TTS?
Yeah, just doing TTS. He's going to do speech to text as well.
No, I think there's been the reason that you might have oddness in sound and everything like that. Yes, typically it's just your bias again. That the bias works the other way. So one is there's bias here that it's a religious text.
Right.
So the way that it would say, and it almost sounds like a preacher. Yeah. But it doesn't make any even preachers out of it. I skip that way. If I buy more, insert whatever really good text. Nobody really speaks that way. The other one is that whoever is going to be recording. Yeah. So on one side, for general senses, there's been like the release of datasets. You have like Sadila in South Africa, where that does have datasets for TTS, where they can try out and then see if you use them as a base and then you build on top. Okay. And we are encouraging people that for general purpose things, having resources that are general purpose for other people to try and build things, it's a worthwhile push. I mean, for me, I can't take it for granted. It's like, Lilapa is working on TTS and as speech to text as well, in our languages as well. And you have to put in the hours.
Yeah, 100%.
To bring how you get that data up.
Yeah.
And put it together. But still, then on the other side is how do you do the research work so that you can still get the systems to be much better, even with the data being as limited as it is.
100%. And what does Lilapa do again?
So we are building kind of resource efficient.
This is your opportunity for like a plug.
Yeah, sure. So Lilapa does resource efficient AI, not just for Africa, but for the world. The current focus is especially in language. So we do speech recognition systems and speech recognition for a number of African languages. We do translation for a number of African languages, and especially being able to go between these languages as well. And there's also analytics in our languages. And for a number of these, we are state of the art. So we can show you and say like we be.
And how many hours of training?
Yeah.
How many hours training are you?
No, we don't. Yeah, you can't reveal what your data is, but we work on specific agreements and always in figuring out how to get data. We did, for example, if your friend was working on isiXhosa, did release 10 hours of an isiXhosa data set that is open. And that because I permissive license request for speech recognition, not for TTS. Yeah, then these are the things that we do as well. We're socially responsible, right? But some of the things we know, these are core resources that are required by the ecosystem, not just for.
Okay. Is this you mentioned the Balabula
API.
Bulabula API.
You can access the Bulabula API.
Is it part of the Lilapa?
Yeah, it's inside Lilapa, and then there's a free tier, then you can go to a paid tier. Okay. And then we also do have agreements with corporates or people who just say, no, we want this thing internally. Yeah, and then we can then have a different type of conversation.
Just in closing, what's next for you? What are you working on? Or you just, I suppose, what you're working on is big enough to keep you going. But
Yeah. Developers, we're really excited as we build LLM, trying to get the traction that we do. I hope for that to grow.
Yeah.
As you're as a founder, you want to get that right. At the University of Pretoria, we have a new institute of data science and AI called the Institute for Data Science and AI. So that's going to be part of the next few years and saying, how do we go beyond language? My work on language, but then how do we enable other parts
Nice.
of innovation to happen through a university? Because it plays a part in that innovation space, right? That basic research, but then if people are doing basic research with AI, then there's likely going to be other innovations that come in later, and innovators can then build on top of those.
Cool.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for people who are fearful of AI? There's this apocalyptic thing around AI going to kill everyone.
Get to know it.
Right.
Yeah, get to know any technology. AI is a tool, and it can be used for good or bad. So in that case, we do need to get the literacy. The same way I would say people should have literacy on data science and all that, because there's a lot of your data that's being processed by lots of organizations. Understanding the basics makes you a more responsible citizen, because you can also ask the right questions both to corporates and to governments to say, how are you protecting us? While if it's just fearful or it's just too hypey, forget about the basics that we need to have as protections.
All right.
Yeah.
Prof. Vukosi, thank you so much for making the time.
All right.
thank you. Yeah, enjoy some of the other talks.